Next Fix podcast. And we're going to go over something that I feel is rather important, especially in this day and age, with technology catching up to us and our desires and some of our sins for lust and things like that. I think that it's overlooked because it isn't technically a substance, right? And so today we've got GT Tan. And GT, how's it going?
Good. It's going good, man. You know, it's a great day, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. We're gonna have a good time. And then, as we always start out with, man, just so you know, like how we figure out that somebody's one of us, man. I'd love to know, where were things the ugliest for you in your journey, man? Where you know, maybe some of those dark moments were kind of taking over, and you thought, damn, I got to do something about this. You know, things are out of control.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So, and here, you know, we're talking about specifically pornography addiction, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Pornography and sexual addiction, right? Or is
Yeah,
it
any
specifically
sexual
pornography?
addiction. Yeah.
Right.
Any kinds of that, you know, it could be even just like compulsive masturbation, right? You know, internet pornography. I think some men also struggle with it, you know, to the extent of like actual sex addiction, you know, even spending money on it. For me, I think one of my darkest one, like, and it wasn't something that I just realized, oh, this was a problem. It was more of a like years of in denial, I would say, you know. And then it started like when I was like 11 years old, really, you know, when I actually first was exposed to pornography, when I was just hanging out at my cousin's apartment, right? And for those of you who actually are old enough, right, and you might actually have experienced VHS tape. So,
Right. It's things were different, man. It's crazy you bring that up, because I was talking to my nephew, and he's 17 now.
Yeah.
And I was like, it wasn't like that. I mean, pornography has been around for a while, but the ways that you got it were like magazines and VHS. It was like a little hard. It wasn't just on everybody's phone. And I think this is why it's so important that you're talking about this and you're attacking this, because it is easy. I think a good friend of mine, he's got 3 kids, and he just, out of like a thought experiment, he's like, I want to see how many Google pages it takes me before I end up at a pornography site if I just like type in fire truck. And he was just like, and it was like 3 pages, and boom, he like ran into it. So yeah, but so you're 11, you're hanging out at the cousin's house, right?
Yeah, at the cousin's house. I was alone. I was bored.
Okay,
I was looking for like, I don't know, some movie to watch, right? I was young. I was 11. Okay. And then I just found a random videotape and I put it in, and then it was like, wait, what is this? And I couldn't help but to keep watching it. I wasn't aroused or anything like that. I think that time I hadn't even discovered masturbation yet, to be honest. I didn't realize that was a thing. But I think the fact that I still remember just like yesterday, it's insane how I'm 35 now, right? You know? And I still remember just like yesterday. That's just insane how much it actually like kind of like ingrained in our mind, right? And then that definitely planted the seed. Of course, like, you know, I think I would say all men, you know, have exposed to certain kind of pornography one way or the other, right? You know, if any man would have walked up to me and say, I've never watched porn, I don't believe them. That's just how, like, come on, let's just face it, right? You know, especially with like, maybe you don't, like, if you grow up in a very conservative household and things like that, you might actually not like go into it intentionally, but
it's not as accessible. It's not as accessible, but
yeah. But anyway, long story like short, like just kind of fast forward, right? You know, for many years when I was growing up, I was very shy in terms of like, especially with women, with girls, right? I was very, a lot of like self-conscious, you know, body image issues as well. And I didn't feel attractive, right? And then I also grew up in Malaysia as well. That's where I grew up, right? You know, for 21 years. So for many years, I thought that, you know, like the only thing I knew about sex was through porn. Right. So that's the first thing. And second it's because of my lack of confidence with like the opposite sex. I just didn't feel secure enough within myself, right? And then to
Yeah.
even like get any progress at all in any intimacy or any connection or any attraction from women, right? And maybe women were like attracted to me, but I wasn't aware of it because I was at so much insecurity inside me, and I was just oblivious to any of that. Even though some of my friends would even tell me, "Yeah, actually, I think that girl is into you," but I was like, really? I don't know. I don't think so. And then I never really took any chances, you see, when I was really young. And when I was even younger, I also lost my brother. When I was 8, he was 5,
Wow.
right? Yeah. So for many, many years, I was using pornography, like was kind of like my safe haven to release the stress, to feel comfortable, to feel like that release, right? And that dopamine. And not just the dopamine. I think a lot of men, and also unfortunately, therapists, even like psychologists, they just think, oh, it's just dopamine, but it's also the adrenaline and endorphin
Right.
addiction as well. Like it's the
Yeah.
actual excitement after that, right? That ecstasy effect. And then
Well,
it's
yeah.
so
And see,
accessible.
that's something that I've spoken to a lot of people about, that like it's not even like, and this is with pornography specifically.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine was telling me, he's like he starts getting a rush just
Yeah.
looking for the porno, like the search begins, right? And this was true for substances too. It was like from the time I was like, okay, it's on, like
Mhm.
I'm going to get drugs. And so like from that moment, that whole process, even though I wasn't doing the drugs, it was like
Yeah.
everything that led up to it was a part of it. And it was a
Yeah.
part of that pursuit, almost like a hunt in a very sick way, right? But you're right. Like it's not just the release. I mean, of course, that's where it kind of the pinnacle, the climax, if you will. But like, yeah, it's just like beginning the process is enough for a lot of people, especially that are truly addicted. It's all part of it, right?
Absolutely. And not only that, I think like another thing about sexual addiction in general, it's even more dangerous compared to drug and alcohol addiction. I don't want to like this
Of course.
just drug addiction and alcohol addiction is still very, very prevalent in current age, time and day. A lot of people still struggle with it, but unfortunately porn addiction and sex addiction is a lot easier to hide, right? You can pretend that you are still a high functioning contributing member of the society easily, right? And or even leader of your community easily, and you can hide because it's not a substance abuse, like you said. Is an abuse of something that is also attached to our innate need to procreate. And that is like in the limbic brain, and the
Right, right,
lizard
right.
brain, right, of us. Like we just like, wait, when we actually see beautiful woman, we have the feeling of like, whoa, that's attractive woman, right? We couldn't help it. That's just part of our brain, no matter
Yeah,
what you
right,
say,
right, right.
right? There's
Yeah,
this golden ratio of like, body type or like even face and things like that. When you see it, like they're gonna be women. They are objectively attractive, and you act if you keep doing that in a way that you keep stimulating that in an artificial way. Obviously, you're gonna just get aroused.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
with no reason, with no actual realistic
Contact.
prospect of mating with that said woman or woman in plural, because in time in internet you can just open so many tabs and like from one race to another, from one like specific like scenario to another, and some guys will even justify in their heads, I'm just doing it just to watch it for the storyline. Come on now, come
You
on
gotta be
now.
kidding me. If anybody's still using that, like get the hell out of here, man.
Like bro, like we know like you're not there just for the storyline. Come on, and anyway, going back to my story, right? I remember in terms of like actual like not necessarily rock bottom, but it was definitely like something I still remember that really hurt me and kind of like gave me a shock, to my spine. Was that I was in my mid 20s, and I actually still was a virgin then in terms of uh intercourse, sexual intercourse, right? I had like some sexual intimacy with women here and there, but not actually experiencing, penetrative sex, right?
Right. Right.
And I think because of the inexperience and everything, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, honestly, back in the days. And I was living in Austin, Texas then. And if anyone who's, lived or been to Austin, Texas, there's a lot of beautiful women out there,
Yeah. Yeah.
in Austin. And actually, as a matter of fact, it's really funny. And that year what I was there, Austin was known to be like, I think the fittest state of the fittest city of the whole entire US. And ironically, 3 hours away, Houston was the fattest city in the United States. Anyway, it's just a fun fact, right? But it's just to really emphasize how far I was mentally. Like, instead of going out and meeting beautiful women in person and learning how to actually get better in my communication, my style, the way I dress, the way I show up, my tonality, all of that stuff, any of the communication skills, right? I just stay home and watch porn.
Right.
And then from one thing led to another, like usually you just, the typical one is what you watch it and then like, it didn't take a long time, like maybe even 10 minutes, less than that. And then you buzz a nut, and then after that, you just kind of like delay it. Then you do it again because you're like, oh, might as well. Right?
Right.
Let's just face it.
Right.
Right?
Right. Vicious circle.
One last time, famous last words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and I this was years ago, so I think now it's easier to look at these scams. So there was one random account on Facebook actually like hit me up. It was from an account of a beautiful woman. It's of Asian descent, and then and I saw it. Then I had a little bit chat with her. I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe there's something happening here. So I went on a Skype. Oh, man, that was like when Skype was still like being more widely used.
Right.
A video call with her, and then we started like having cyber sex, essentially, right? So essentially we were like half naked, masturbating on camera, and before I know it, the whole entire connection completely cut off. And then I was just like, oh, maybe just a disconnected. I just tried to like reach back out to her again and everything. But the next message she sent me was a random link, like an unlisted link on YouTube.
Okay.
Of a screen recording of me masturbating.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Dude. And followed by a screenshot of my friends from Malaysia, my parents, my like a friend list.
God.
And essentially a blackmail. Yeah, like you see where this is going now. It's just like just imagine you like you're really like, as someone who is young, who is in a foreign country, who is just like, and I just graduated from college. I was broke.
Care who you are, young, old, whatever, man. Somebody's got.
Because of that neurology, in that sense,
Yeah.
And I also came from a very conservative Chinese background. Right. So if my parents, especially my dad, like were to be embarrassed by that, then that was a huge chance I would have been disowned, bro.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Dude, okay. Yeah. So all right, so you get the link, you click the link, and then you're seeing yourself.
Yeah, right? I was seeing myself half naked, doing the deed. It was just like, and it was just like, wait, what the fuck is going on? Excuse my language.
No,
but
it
was crazy.
Yeah, so then what did the message say? It was like, what, X
it was
number
like,
of dollars?
Either pay or I will send, this to, it's really simple, right? So, and I did go back and forth in a little bit, and I was just like, I forgot exactly what I said. Then I'm glad I was already on a journey, right? Of improving myself and being more self-aware and all this stuff and everything, and also learning how to deal with crises and things like that. And actually, years before that, I was already a mentee of JK, who is actually a founder and head coach of Elevate Recovery of Porn Reboot System. So, and I remember, something that he said is just like whenever you have like something like a shit moment, just like delay everything first.
Yeah, like pump the brakes and
Yeah,
then
pump
kind
the
of like,
brakes, don't do anything. But I think it was also good that I was broke enough that I didn't even have the money to even pay her anyway.
right, right.
Like, and I went online and search. I literally just, you know what? Let me just like reverse search her image on like her profile and also her name for scam. So I just searched for scam and fraud and things like that, and I saw the same pattern. Then I saw what like the other guys did.
Wow,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I think right before that, I was also like, I sent literally a text to my mentor. I was like, hey, bro, like this is going on. I need to talk, right? So I think having that someone to reach out to is important,
Dude,
right?
huge.
Yeah, really, really important to anchor you, especially when you're super emotional and just irrational. Like, anyway, long story short, I think the main thing is that I immediately block her, right? I mean, the contact, everything, no response, nothing. You just have to pretty much, like, in some ways, pray for the best,
Right. Excuse
or
me.
like damage control, right?
Right. And also like call that bluff, right?
Yeah,
Because let's face it, like YouTube, I mean YouTube, right? They're not putting videos of some random dude wanking,
yeah,
yanking their
yeah.
wanky,
Well,
right?
it
Like that
was
ain't
also
happening.
unlisted video too. It was probably gonna be like taken down, right? But back
Of course.
then, there was a lot less awareness of how content was posed and things like that in
It's
general.
true.
You see,
Right.
it was at least 10 years ago, you see. So I think now it's easier, to like be aware of it. I think a lot of viewers, right, YouTube viewers or podcast listeners are a lot more aware of how content are created, right? And
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
how to protect ourselves and how to call the bluff and everything. But because of that, scammers are getting more and more sophisticated now. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, there is one mindset I remember is like these scammers, they are just like they're literally just like numbers game.
Of course. Of course.
They will move on if you're just not responsive. So you want to
Right.
put it in yourself into their head, and that's how I was actually reminded actually by my mentor later on. But before that, I was already blocker. I did the right thing, and I also like kind of like preemptively like text a message, to my brothers like, hey bro, like if you see a link, just delete it. It's a scam. It's like a scam. Don't click it. Nothing. It's a
Yeah.
virus. I just try to like damage
Dude,
control, right? Bro,
and he's like,
don't click on it.
right, he's like, this isn't a virus, dude. You're naked and you got your dick in your hand. Like it's a
Click the link.
horrible, horrible thing. It's like, ah,
Like, yeah, you know what? I don't want you to see that, bro. But anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
long
So
story
that's awful,
short,
dude. Right.
it
So
was awful. It was an awful feeling, man. It was horrible. But I think that was one of the oh shit moment that I had that I just like, you know what? I need to really like take this more seriously,
of course.
in terms of like getting my life together. So
Right. Right. So all right. So then that's like that's a pretty good moment to think like, man, because it's not just you, and you can't just sweep that under the rug because now you've spoken about it to your mentor, right? So now, of course, being a good mentor, I'm sure there was like, all right, we need to talk about this, right? Like,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So then
yeah.
what happened? What happened after that? Like,
Well, I think years after that, I started like following the system that he was already been coaching men, to go overcome this. Right? We actually met in a different context. We used to do like actually door to door selling in the South. Right? That's a whole another story, right, for another time. But
right.
that's where we met. Like he was like my mentor in a lot of areas of my life. Right? And I think it is because of that. I just started following the process, the system, essentially. It's about having the system to really change my habits, change my lifestyle, and change my self image. And it's not about quitting porn, actually. It's not even about even quitting. It's not about being celibate at all. I think a lot of guys misunderstand that. They just do like the whole like, oh yeah, like no nut November, all that stuff and everything, like all the semen retention stuff and everything. Like while there are benefits to that for like those challenge for a specific reason. But if you are actually addicted to pornography, you don't want to think that. You want to become a man who doesn't need porn. I think that's
Yeah.
more important,
Yeah.
right? You want to become a different
become a
version
man
of
that
yourself.
doesn't need pornography. Right,
Absolutely,
exactly.
yeah. Like actually change your self-image completely from within. And the only way like one would actually change that self-image, right, is by improving your different parts of your life that you are not satisfied with yourself. That you ideally, like if you would grade yourself based on your full potential, where are you at? In your fitness, in your health, in your finances, right, in your relationships, friendships, daily habits, and so on, career, whatever that is that's important for you, and everyone knows that, like, without thinking about it, right? There's one thing that a lot of men, they're ignoring the problem. They're procrastinating on looking for solutions. They might not know the solutions yet. So I think like taking the first step of like, shit, I need to take this seriously. I think that will be the first step for any addiction, I would say, but especially for porn addiction, because it's so available. And unfortunately, a lot of men, when they talk about it, they just joke about it in like, oh,
Right.
like it's like not a big deal, right? Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with it. It's okay. We're just men, Oh, well, actually, you know what? I'm not cheating on my wife.
Right. Because
Like,
that's how it's so sneaky, because like you could tell yourself, I'm not really hurting anybody. Like, oh well, it's not like I'm damaging my health. And so there's all these narratives that people, especially addicts, will tell themselves to be okay with it.
mm,
But the conversation that a friend of mine, I actually said the same thing about pornography and kind of you know, the random sex acts that I was involved in.
yeah,
And I said literally, I'm like, well, once I find the right girl, then I'll stop all that. And my friend told me, he looked me right in the face. He said, no, you've got it completely backwards. You've got to stop all that, and then you'll find the right girl. And
yeah,
if you don't do it in that order, you
yep,
don't get your shit together and stop that. You got to do that before the girl comes. You
absolutely,
can't wait. It doesn't work like that. And I was like, man, it's
absolutely.
hard. I was like, you know what? And he was 100% right. 100% right.
Yeah, because you're gonna trauma bond if you were to like find the right girl, right? I think a lot of guys think that, oh yeah, I just need to get a relationship. I just need to get married, right? For those who are like more religious, they want to save after marriage, right? I get it. But even then, that's not how you do it. You gotta actually find like be the best version of yourself first, or at least the best that you can,
Yeah.
right? To the
Right.
point that you have enough confidence to make connection. Because at the end of the day, that's one thing that we always say, right, to a lot of men who's considering, oh, maybe I should, actually, see if I actually am addicted, right? Is that you need connection. Is connection, like real genuine connection with another human being. It could even be just a friendship of a guy who can relate to you, right? Or you know more opportunities for in the opposite sex, right? That you actually have more abundance of friendships to the point that you have options to pick. Oh, you know what? Oh, actually, you know what? I'm actually attracted to her. Not just her body, not just her like physique, but also her personality, and lifestyle choices and things like that. Is that actual like a compatible? Like, does she add value to my life? Right? I think like that's why like porn has really screwed up a lot of men's, actually in general, women's too, dating life in the
Yeah.
current modern age. Do you know that there's a stats? There's over, and this is like old stats. I think it's a lot higher now. At least a third of men, like 28 to 30% of men, they have not had sex within the last year at all.
Really.
Yeah,
It's like with anybody, like,
yeah,
so
which
there's
is
been no
like
connection. You're
like a
right.
sample size of 10, like three of them at least have not had actual sex within the last. This is in the United States, and I think it's from Washington Post, in 2018. That's where the stats came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's increased because of COVID.
Well, yeah. And it's like, it's not getting any better. And I had a conversation with a young girl,
Mm,
much younger than myself. And I remember her just nonchalantly saying, like, I hooked up, and then I didn't think much of it, but I'm old. So I just imagined it was like a physical interaction. She didn't
mm.
mean that at all. She meant like she had like virtually like got on like Snapchat and like hooked, and I thought to myself, I was blown away. I was like, whoa, like that's like, and then but again, it kind of goes back to this lack of actual connection, either emotionally or physically. But I mean, and I think the ideal world, what we're meant for, all of that's supposed to be together. It's supposed to be emotionally and physically and spiritually and all of that. That's where it really should be on all those levels, right?
Yeah. Especially if you're looking for like a long-term companion, right?
Of course,
if that's your goal, right? If like you're still figuring out and learning what you want and what you don't want, what you like, sure, you're gonna have like always like an actual exploratory,
of course.
phase of your life. And if that's the phase of your life, well, that's just the phase of your life right now. You got to work through it and find out the data. I think it goes back to data. That's why like our system is so effective that we actually have a record of like men ending their behavior in 90 days.
Okay.
That's the average, I would say, and also in terms of rewiring the brain, it does take a little bit longer where it becomes more of an automation. It's about 1.5 to 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so what is that now? Well, let me ask you this: Did you use that system, or did you kind of go your own battle and then you hopped on with this later on, like through your mentor?
I pretty much used like the kind of like a raw version of the system.
The beta version.
Yeah, the beta version. Before it was even called Porn Reboot, right? Before it was branded that way. And where we actually have a lot more coaches now. Now we have like literally like average week is like 5 coaching sessions, with like we have a neuroscientist, partner with us too. And we Dr. Rankin, we have Dr. Eastman, she's a psychotherapist, right? Able to actually deal with like emotional trauma, any anxiety issues, right? Or even relationship issues. And we also have a neuro reprogramming coach who can actually help a lot of our, mentees and clients, right? To pretty much like identify limiting beliefs that they're not even realized yet because of their addiction or even other underlying issues they're not really addressing because it's been their blind spot, right? So just help them to open up their mind so they actually have all of the data to make the right decisions for their own life, for their own definition of their reboot. That's what we call it, reboot. Because recovery, unfortunately, especially for porn addiction, does not work because there's no original state to recover towards. The average age now of exposure to pornography, you know how old is it, Ryan?
Man. If I had to guess, I would call it probably 9.
6.
I feel like it's 6. Shit, man.
Yeah, I know. Like, so, like, do you have kids?
I do. He's 10 months old. So
10 months old. Yeah, but
got
now
a few years.
You are aware of it. You at least, it's not a matter of when, whether they're going to be exposed to it. It's a matter of when they're going to be exposed to it and how you actually educate them. I think there's also a lack of education as well for kids into helping them to even fortify their mind to be prepared on this overly sexualized social media world, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like, for example, like I don't really spend a lot of time on X or Twitter, but X is just full of porn.
It's all of it, man. It's all of it. Like in fact, like, because when I said I have a 10-month-old son, I've also been married just a couple months longer than that. And again, remember I said I had that conversation with a friend of mine. Yeah. He was like, no, man, you've got to cut out the porn and all the one night stands. You got to quit doing what you're doing. Otherwise, that person's never going to be right for the right girl. So I did get to work on it. But here's the thing, like in time, I started realizing, because you mentioned X, right? I mean, let's just face it, the algorithm gives us what we want. So when it took me a long time, brother. It took me a long time to where big old butts didn't just show up all over my Instagram. And so, like, I mean, but what is that? That is a reflection of whatever I stopped scrolling on or whatever I clicked on or whatever. I mean, however it works. I mean, that's
not necessarily what you click on. Is also who you actually are in touch with as well.
That too, right? So
and not just who you follow. Also who you are actually geographically like in proximity with. So if you
Exactly.
actually have a friend, a personal friend, you might not even follow him on X
Right.
or any of these social media platform, right?
Yeah.
But if
Right.
you're just like, I think they also track your geolocation, and because
Yeah.
of that, like if he is viewing a lot more of a specific kind of content, they would just assume that you have common ground. So they would suggest his content to you or her content to you, and vice versa. So
And they're right. They're accurate, right?
yeah,
But it took me,
absolutely. Yeah, it's just human nature.
so long, right?
Yeah,
And so like I cut out the pornography and I cut out all that stuff. And then I mean,
good.
it took so long and I had to battle it. I had to straight up draw a line in the sand. And if
Yeah,
maybe the girl isn't naked, right?
yeah,
Maybe it's not a naked girl, but it's like,
yeah. It
it's
doesn't
still
have to be.
pornography. It's still pornography.
It's like softcore, essentially softcore, at least, you know,
Right.
Instagram,
Right.
you know, Facebook. I mean, it's just full of it these days, right? So, and
Yeah.
of course, YouTube too, like just like wherever you go.
And but it took a long time, but man, and when I say this, it was like, it still kind of gave me that thread to pull. And
mm,
man, if you don't have a system like what you're mentioning, which I want you to
yeah,
I want you to go into detail about it, but if you don't have a plan about it, or if you're not just, I mean, fully committed,
yeah,
you will fail because it is
absolutely.
working against you. It is working against
Yeah.
you.
And
It will
your
show up.
DNA is working against you as well.
That too. Yeah.
Like we always gonna be attracted to beautiful women no matter what. And only
Right.
that because our biological, especially as men, is designed to procreate to multiple women. Because that's
Right.
why we have
Spread the
so
seed.
yeah, it's spread the seed. That's just how it is. It like is it actually in our DNA. As much as like yeah, like if let's say your goal is to actually have a monogamous relationship, you want to have a family unit, you want to have a happy life on that. Yes, but unfortunately, there's a biological sense in us. It's going against that, and pornography, all these like promise or virtual promise of unlimited sexuality, that's why I use this, right? Unlimited sexuality is causing us to like, oh wait, no, this is better. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
So well, I want to. So how does it work? Like, how are you helping these guys? Like, what's going on for somebody that's struggling with this?
I think the first part of it is that is also like there's different stages of like reboot that we actually use, right? There's the first stage is called a pre-reboot stage. It's for those men who's like still wondering if they're addicted, right? I think the reason I'm also putting out more content like this as well, right? You know, being invited to different podcasts and being a guest is to just spread the awareness of if let's say you have some behaviors with pornography, just take a week off of it and see how you feel. Take like a month off, right? You may not want to quit it. You may not even be ready to quit it, or you may not even identify yourself as an addict because I think that word has such a heavy term in it. And there's a lot of stigma behind it, especially with porn addicts. I think it's also the fear of judgment. I think that's also a
Yeah.
big thing because a lot of like people like especially sex addict porn addicts, you just like equate that into like child molester, and because
Okay.
of that there's that
Yeah.
fear of like that kind of stigma, and you might have a problem but you don't want to admit it, or you don't know who is the right person to talk about it. I think that's the first piece of it. You got to
Uh-huh.
find the right community to talk about it safely and discreet, right? Because we also get a lot of pastors too to reach out to us discreetly too.
Wow.
We get
Yeah.
all kinds of men from all walks of life. We have NFL players reach out to us. We have like NBA players, right? I'm using those example as
Because they're
like
high
because
profile.
they're high profile, and they seem to be very, very successful. You like, there's no way they actually have any problems with that, right? But they do. You see,
Yeah.
and then and we have just everyday Joe, who's going to work and things like that, and just use it as a habit. Usually happens like in the middle of the night, right, late at night before bed, right, or early in the morning when you have morning wood, right. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, like I think education awareness, it's I think the one of the big thing. That's the reason like we've we actually just crossed like 100K subscribers. Thank you, for the support, right? For those who actually follow our channel, Porn Reboot YouTube channel. We also have a podcast, right? That is produced by our head coach and founder, JK Mazy. And yeah, we crossed like 600 episodes now, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So he's been doing it for a while. He's been like helping men like this, for 13 years now, going 14, right? So I think the first step is awareness.
Of
I think
course.
once you're aware of it, then if for those who actually might actually feel like, you know what, I think I need like more professional help. I can't just do it alone. I think that's the first thing. Recognize you cannot do it alone. If like you try to like control it on your own for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or even a month, you can't do it. You can't keep thinking about it. Your withdrawal symptom is so high, you don't know how to handle that. That means that you need to reach out for help. So what we do is that we actually have an evaluation session just to see, what they need. A lot of them, they just need like to literally listen to our podcast and they'll be okay. They have enough like resources to help themselves on their own without any additional costs, right? And only a selective men who is just like, you know what, I want someone to handheld me going through the process of implementing the tools, right? Then that's when that you need to invest, in a coaching program, right? So
I think that like I was mentioning, if you haven't drawn a line in the sand, like a strong commitment, you're doomed to fail. And then for however this is showing up in your life, I think that having a resource available is really important, because it depends. It all depends. Like
it does, yeah.
If your wife's going to leave you and you're about to lose your kids and everything because you just can't keep your eyes on them, your family, right? Then you need help. You need support sooner than later, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Or even before you get there. I think a lot of guys, it's like being like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the most dangerous one is those that they actually don't have those like that imminent threat of like losing the family, and it's just like a habit. They do it like once in a while, but it bothers them. But it's not like the wife is not going to leave them. The wife has no idea, right? They're able to hide it, right? I actually have one gentleman, he was able to hide it for many, many years, almost a decade. And he got to a point that he like normal porn, regular heterosexual porn doesn't do it anymore. So he started watching like just experimenting transgender porn because of curiosity. It always starts that
right. It got like it wasn't enough for just normal looking like stuff anymore.
And usually it wasn't like that he actually searched for it and click on it. It was suggested to him.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, I'm curious what it is. And then you click on it. And after you click on it, and then like at first, usually, if you're not like naturally, you're not really attracted to individuals who are transgender, or even gay men, right? Then you're gonna be grossed out by it, right? But usually, if your addiction level is like up to a point that your tolerance level is so high that you just like it doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them, they will go back to it, and then they started getting aroused by it. Then they start having like identity crisis of sexuality, right? And so one of my clients, he actually started experimenting in real life too.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And to the point of like he was consistently acting out with both transgender individuals and men and prostitutes.
Yeah.
And you know how he found out? Like not found out, how he actually like got to a place where like the O-shaped moment, like, okay, you know what? Let me like draw the sand in the line, like you said, and actually take this more seriously and get a professional. When when he got
arrested. Shit. Yeah.
When he got HIV, he has to like come clean to the fiance. Yeah, I know. Anyway, like he's doing a lot better now. I'm really proud of him.
Right.
But
now that's that ain't.
But you don't want to wait until then.
Of course. Right. Hey, look,
Yeah.
man, and I gotta be honest, like again, because you had mentioned like men will kind of joke, we'll kind of make light of things, and I remember growing up, and
Yeah.
a friend of a very like close, like I've known the kids since we were like young kids,
Yeah.
and we would joke around about like guys that have just it's just gotten so far that like normal stuff doesn't work for them anymore, and we
Yeah.
would make jokes about that when we were in our
That's
20s, but
just your
then
kink.
right. So
Yeah.
so then even myself, it's like normal stuff wouldn't work anymore. Next thing I know, I'm looking at like pee and all this crazy stuff, man. That's not even like that is
It's
not
not even
right.
sexual. It's
It's not,
gross.
it's just, it's just so out there that I was about
Yeah.
the rush. It was a part of this
Yeah.
rush and this pursuit of like this, and it was
I
just like
know.
it's absolutely disgusting, and it was part of it for me, right? So I mean, whichever way it goes, transgender, whatever, however somebody, if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you're
Or
not
even like
naturally there,
bestiality. That's also another one that is a little on the extreme side, right? You know,
right? It
or
gets
playing with feces, like like of course, excuse all of you viewers not to gross you guys out, but like it's important to talk about it directly so we can face the problem directly. And if you have problems like that, if you need help, just reach out for help, man.
right.
Seriously. So
Well, because I mean, if you think about it, like people wouldn't make that stuff if people weren't watching that stuff,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean, and I think it's wholeheartedly what you had mentioned. It's like it's at one point in time, it was just probably a picture of some boobs, and it was like, and then you fast forward 10, 15 years later, you got an issue, and you're
yeah.
doing who knows what, you contracting diseases, and it's like that is like that is where, yeah, you got to do something
Or
before
breaking the
that.
law, right? You know, because I know in Europe, most of the European countries, even like cartoon pictures that like shows to be like it could be underage,
I
it's
see.
actually
Right.
you could be prosecuted, right? You know, in the
Right.
UK, you know, or in some European countries, right? And there's this category porn, you know, it's mostly Japanese, it's called hentai, right? Which is cartoon porn, even though it's not like actual child pornography, but a lot of those images it could also be like they'll all look very very young, right? You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
unfortunately, growing up, I mean, because I grew up in an Asian country, I did grow up with that, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's also another one. And just on the flip side, just to look at like the more of like because of the advance of technology, right? Now we have like different kinds of porn. Now we have VR porn, AI porn, right? You know, and the campsites back then now is what changed to OnlyFans,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
and do you know what was the revenue of OnlyFans within a year, the most recent year?
I got to be honest. I guess because I'm just too damn old.
Six
I just still
billion,
don't understand it.
six
Like, but
billion,
a billion,
six
man,
billion dollars, right? And that's
billion.
OnlyFans cut. That's
Wow.
their cut. And OnlyFans only take like I don't know the exact amount, right? The commission, right? It's like 15-20%.
Oh my God.
Just think about the actual amount of money that went there because pornography, just porn industry in general, I think it's crossed like at least 100 billion worldwide, if not just like in the United States. And unfortunately, if you were to look at the data, there's actually a site. It's called like literally. There's no porn in there. Okay, it's called Pornhub Insights. It's just stats, right? You
Insights.
know,
Right. 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 Right.
yeah, I think over 54% of like if I it's like a good amount percentage, at least 40% or 50% of pornography are all from US, the viewers.
Wow.
Yeah. US actually is the
That's interesting.
highest. Yes, I know. Are you aware of that?
Well, I guess, there's, and of course, there's so many variables, so many,
There
I
is
guess,
that because there are countries that they ban porn and things like that, right?
or they don't have the technology, but but it's still, I mean, still that number shocks me. And so, I mean, hey man, like that's why I'm glad that you're out there, because if people aren't helping other people out, like to combat this,
Yeah.
right? Look what happens, right? Relationships in people's lives once they get well older and they don't have the experience. Like you said, you're like your own story, right? Like you're in
Yeah.
your mid-20s, you're suffering, right?
I
And because
was.
you were suffering, and you didn't have physical interaction. You didn't have the capabilities to go and be a normal man, right? So like here it is, like right. It's huge, man.
And be a masculine man that is healthy, that has positive masculinity, right? You know, that go out and actually be attractive and attract the right woman in your life, like you said, right? You know, and not like and that also has created, because of OnlyFans, you know, economy now, it's created a lot of simps, you know. It's essentially a Sims economy, right? And also a lot of men become like, in some ways, some form of way of cuckolding.
So what I want you to do, because I kid you not, like a buddy of mine, I'm 44. I think I'm 44. I don't even know how fucking old I am. But,
okay, you look young, man.
A buddy, thanks, man. But a buddy of mine, same age as me, he was asking me just the other day. He's like, you know what a simp is? And I was like, yeah, but I'm not really sure. So maybe just for the audience, like, what exactly is a simp?
I think just someone who actually just have no standards. A man who has no standards. They just kind of like kowtow to the demands,
right?
Of,
like a beta male,
partner.
Right? I was thinking like a beta male, and like you can't get the
because
girl
of the power dynamics. They're not leading; they're following.
Exactly.
You know, essentially they're a bitch. They're a little
bitch.
Yeah, they are. Like, you know, in that, within the confines of like the way they actually interact with women.
Exactly.
It could be
they're
like
the guys,
just with
the
female friends. It could be like just with the wife, even, right? You know, the whole like happy wife, happy life. Like I'm not like 100% buying it. I think I'm gonna get a lot of shit by just saying that, especially in American culture, because I think a lot of like the mainstream is just like, that is so acceptable just because like of the feminist movement. I'm all about egalitarian, you know, equal rights and doing everything, you know, like you get your money, right? You know, as a woman, all of this stuff, everything good. But I think there's also a misconception of like the power dynamics, you know, and it's like you gotta make sure that your woman still respects you.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, because there's one thing, it's also, we also have a lot of guys reach out to us and they would like, oh, you know what? I need to like ask my wife first before I move forward, or before I make this investment, right? You know? And I only ask them one thing, okay? Do you ask your wife the last time you relapsed?
Right.
Seriously, you asked your wife last time you actually cheat, right? You know, before you went and call like that hooker, right? You know, like seriously,
it's
right?
true.
You know?
Yeah.
So and at the end of the day, and some guys will also ask us like, oh, should my wife or my girlfriend be my accounting partner? Oh no.
No, dude.
No. Like seriously, like your wife is not your mom. I'm sorry. Like that is gonna fuck up the sexual dynamics between you, right?
It's true. You got to outsource it. But on that point, man, how would somebody outsource? How can people find GT Tan and the porn reboot system, man?
Yeah, actually, I think the first thing is, you know, of course, you know, if you want to just learn a little bit more about us, you can go to our YouTube. We have like over 2,000 videos uploaded so far, right? And we're still putting more and more content that is helpful.
Is the title of that channel, is it Porn Reboot? Got
Porn Reboot.
I want to make sure I had it right. Yep,
yeah. And because of the word porn, you do have to be at least 18 years old to view it, right? We actually publicize as a adult content, right? You know, and also all of the podcast channels, Porn Reboot podcast, right? You know, we do have that too on all of the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Any way that you actually listen to your podcast, iTunes, right, you know, or Spotify, right, or just YouTube. Actually, we have a whole playlist of our podcast on YouTube in itself, right? So if you want to just stick to YouTube, our website is elevatedrecovery.org. Elevatedrecovery.org. That's where you learn a little bit more about our team, about like how is it different with 12 steps, how is it different with no fap, you know, or even therapists, right, and counseling, you know, like it's something that it's a lot more holistic, and you can learn a little bit more about us, right? And if you want to just like contact me directly, right, you can either actually even go through we have a whole forum You know, you can even just ask directly for me, GT, as well. I'm the senior Reboot strategist there. I've been working full time on this, working with men who are struggling with sexual behavior and helping them to actually reach sexual wellness for the last 7 years now, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
Now. Yeah.
Shit.
And within the last few years, you know, like less than a decade, I've come across like I think at least 12,000 calls on my calendar.
Right.
Yeah,
damn,
over 10,000 men. That's a lot of men.
That's
Yeah, we stay busy. Yeah. So, or you can also search me on if you want to just reach out to me directly, like privately. I'm also pretty active on Facebook, you know, and Instagram too. You just want to DM, just a private chat without getting on a call or anything like that. You know, everything you share with us private, it's discreet, right? You can even use an alias to reach out to us if you want, right? It doesn't matter. So,
dude, that way, listen, I'm gonna put it all in print, make sure everybody has the resources. Of course,
I'll share like the whole list to you so that you know it's easy for your viewers, you know, and we're here to help.
I love the mission, man, and it's been a big part of my life, and I think that it's overlooked by a lot of people, man. So I think what you're doing is a noble cause, man. So I really appreciate you being on the Next Fix, GT.
Thank you. Yeah.
And guys, until the next one, see you.
All right, latest, man.